I'm going to present you with a little scenario. Let's say you're meeting someone new. Now, after those pleasantries of exchanging names, what's next? How are you? Where are you from? What do you do? Do you have any kids? These are just simple conversation starters that set the framework for a friendly relationship. But what if I told you that this friendly conversation is technically illegal if you had it with a rental applicant or a tenant, and you could have a lawsuit filed against you? I'm Casey from Rentec Direct, and today we're going to talk to you about one of the most important landlord-tenant laws, the Federal Fair Housing Act. When you hear about a landlord's legal responsibility to prevent discrimination, we're most likely referring to the Federal Fair Housing Act. The Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination due to race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, and disability. This means that a housing provider, landlord, or property manager cannot accept or deny a rental applicant for a reason associated with one of these protected classes. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD, is responsible for these regulations that prohibit discrimination and other federal issues related to your tenants. The Fair Housing Act extends beyond the leasing process and the tenant screening process to include advertising, preventing a landlord or property manager from marketing a property to a certain group of people. This means that a landlord or a property manager cannot use language in their rental vacancy ads related to one of these protected classes. The most common mistake I see landlords making in their rental vacancy ads is calling a property family friendly. Remember, familial status is one of those protected classes, and so you can't even mention anything family related in your rental ad. So remember when I asked about that new person I just met and I asked them if they had kids? I was just trying to make friendly conversation, get to know them a little bit. But if they're a rental applicant or a tenant or someone I'm meeting for the first time and they happen to come to a rental vacancy open house, I can't even discuss kids because kids fall under the familial status protected class and it is off limits as a landlord-tenant conversation. Now, you might be kind of wondering like, oh, but I need to know who's going to be living here because of rental occupancy laws and because you want to know. Well, you cannot ask them about kids specifically. You can have them fill out information listing the names of any occupants that are under 18, but you can't ask them what their relationship to these minors are. You see, the idea here is you can't give preferential treatment to someone who has kids, nor can you deny a rental applicant if they do have kids. Essentially, familial status cannot play any role in your rental screening decision. What you want to remember about the Federal Fair Housing Act is that you cannot bring up any topic related to a protected class in a normal conversation, even if this conversation isn't even related to rentals or rental screening. That's because somehow learning this information about your tenant or rental applicant could influence your relationship with that renter or tenant or applicant. Federal fair housing laws also prohibit disparate impact. Disparate impact is unintentional or subconscious discrimination. It's because of disparate impact that landlords and property managers can't even have conversations where topics related to protected classes could be broached, because learning that little bit of information about your tenant could cause some sort of subconscious or unknown bias that makes you favor or disfavor a tenant who belongs or doesn't belong to a protected class. So keep those conversations related to protected classes out of your landlord-tenant relationship in order to avoid discrimination accusations and lawsuits. Beyond the Federal Fair Housing Act, your state will have even more anti-discrimination laws. On the state level, these anti-discrimination laws typically extend that list of protected classes under the Fair Housing Act to include even more areas and topics that are protected. These can include things like gender, marital status, and age as protected classes on top of those ones under the Federal Fair Housing Act. Knowledge of these anti-discrimination laws is the best way to protect yourself from discrimination accusations and lawsuits. It's also one of the best ways that you can provide great service to the rental community and the tenants that rent from you. I'm Casey from Rentec Direct. You can find me on Twitter at @ThatRenterGirl. And for more tips for landlords, property managers, renters, and investors, go to rentecdirect.com/blog. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.